So where's you want to
You have to be in City Hall up there. You have to get your own trailer.
be?
We're all set whenever you guys are.
Oh, it's 1:30. I had a question. Coming from San Antonio, so all those towboats, push boats out there in the channel, Lydia Inn, well, farther out, pushed up against, the
Oh,
barges.
the
But I
barge,
saw piling looking thingies out there too. So what's going on with, remember about a year or two ago?
I don't know,
Oh,
probably not our city limits.
okay. I just,
Definitely-
two or three piling looking.
Definitely not our authority. Yeah, I don't, I haven't been over that way.
Doesn't follow up on long stories like that.
Yeah, what I recall was that they felt that they had fast tracked the permit that the guy got to allow the.
I remember the original story. I just didn't know,
Yeah.
what are the piling boats doing out there?
So,
There's a lot of push boats. Like 6 or 7, just counting off.
There's a lot that are trying to get into the inner harbor and the port.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that actually falls into Sampat County. Either Sampat or Aransas County.
Yeah.
It always did. It didn't impact us, and it's essentially private
I mean, it's hard
property.
to see. I mean, it's.
And it's private property there with the Bass Brothers. San Jose.
That's their island. I forgot about
Yeah, it is private.
I forgot about it. Their island.
We ready to go?
We're on.
Now, 1:32, Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Call this meeting of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals order. One thing I missed, our thoughts and regrets with the family passing of Jeff Ferguson. Members of this committee for a long time. Yeah, and he had a tough go. He came up to the last meeting. Anyway, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends.
Absolutely, Mayor. Good job.
Okay. We're gonna have a public hearing. This is for brief discussion. Please be brief. We'll have further discussion during the open session. First item on the public hearing is a variance request 22-000611. Property location 422 West Avenue G. Anybody to speak on that?
Yes, sir.
Please come up.
And Al, you can either, the public hearing, they can't, so there's no discussion back and forth. It's just a one-way comment, or I assume the chairman will let
Well, I
you,
did.
when the agenda item comes up, and then,
Yeah, everyone's pretty much aware of the fact that, we had the building contracted to build.
good, name, address.
My name,
please.
okay. Al Lytle, 2377 County Road 2421, Como, Texas. We built this building here. We had it contracted in our prints and everything that was submitted to the city. We were at a 9-foot finished floor. As an explanation, I couldn't give you one other than the fact at the end, we had a benchmark there, Mark, that was shot, and they built it, and they're 4 inches short of the 9 foot. We met the FEMA 8 foot, but the city's requirement for the additional foot, we were 4 inches short. I would like to add on that box is wind and water tight. So when those doors are closed, as far as the building itself, it's wind and water tight to 18.6 feet in the air. So, other than that, sorry about the 4 inches, guys. I wish I had some way to check that, but, you know, depending upon the contractor, that's pretty much where I'm at. Thank you, guys. And,
All right. Thank you. All right. Next is discussion action on variance request 22-001062. Property location 526 Paradise Point. Anybody go next?
And same thing, Matt, just for clarity and transparency, public hearing, because you can make comments to them, but when the agenda item comes up for a discussion,
Okay,
you can do it now or then, when you can actually, they can ask you questions and back and forth. So
okay,
just so you know, that's why they can't answer anything like that.
okay, that's fine. Mike Owens, live here in Port A, 551 Lacosta K. I'm looking for a variance on my deck in my house. I have pictures. It is in the yard setback. We had permission to do a concrete patio, but we decided to do pilings and a deck to make it more permeable and less invasive into the wetland areas where we're at. And to reconcile, I would have to build a concrete retaining wall and fill it in and, you know, be way more intrusive to the area, you know, to bring it up the 30 something inches that I need to do.
Now, so this was a variance from setback, right?
Well, when we get to the item, I'll
Okay.
elaborate.
Okay.
Do you want to let us see your pictures? We have a picture, but I don't know if it's the same. Go ahead and let's pass those around. We'll share this. Yeah, basically someone we got.
I think it's time.
Yeah, that's. I think this is the same thing.
Yes, sir.
I guess this is the time to say something, at least initially.
Yeah.
My name is Ray Dillahunty. I live at 478 Paradise Point Drive in the subdivision of the second issue on the table tonight. And I do have some thing to say about my feelings and my
Yes, sir.
disapproval of the variance. If this is not the right time to do it, I'm happy to.
No, right now.
Okay, it is a variance, the plans that were submitted to the HOA, and from what I can tell, the plans that were submitted to the city do not show the deck at that height. They show a patio on the ground. He put in additional pilings and additional deck that extends almost 9 foot into the setback, almost a foot from the back of the property line. He did this without ever submitting any adjusted plans. And I first, at this point, don't have any reason to support a variance.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Okay. We'll now close the public hearing and go into the general meeting. First item is discussion and take action on the minutes from February 23rd, 2022. Hope everybody had a chance to read that page and a half volume. Have any additions, corrections, or motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept, even though I wasn't here for that meeting, but I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any additions, corrections? All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. Next item is discussion and take action on variance request 22 -000611. Property location 422 West Avenue G. Okay. Rick, can you give us
Yes, sir.
info?
So just a little bit of back history. So obviously we've seen more and more of the use of these shipboard containers in town. But I'm fairly sure that I can say that this was the first use of one as a habitable, viable structure that had engineering and gone through the whole application of codes. Don, and you jump into if I get anything incorrect, but actually was under the first one that we really had building codes that kind of gave us some guidance as to what happened. The situation that we're here for today regarding the variance, and if you'll look, the requirement to affix it to a foundation for these, and based on what the engineers required, was pretty substantial. Although it looks like it's blocks, those are actually poured. There's rebar. It's secured pretty significantly. But just like the other couple of variances that you guys have seen, the guys that and again prior to us, and I'll talk about the form board survey in a minute because I don't know, that would have been a little bit difficult in this situation. But just like the other ones where we hadn't imposed the form board survey, it got put a few inches too low. Now I say that it's above FEMA's base flood elevation, which keeps us, and Nicole just confirm with me that it keeps us somewhat out of hot water with FEMA. But the codes that we've adopted, which adds 1 foot of freeboard to that, it does not. So it's, like I said, it's within FEMA guidelines, not within our interpretation of the codes that are applied. So quite simply, that's it. Now, I've often told you in the past that we've gone to this form board survey. This kind of was an awakening for us that, okay, in these instances where you've got foundations like that form board survey may not have actually helped anyway, which is good to know. We'll just have to like I said, follow along a little closer. The problem still is that there was a hub set. They knew where it needed to be, but you got it a few inches too low. So again, given the way it's secured, the utilities there, and one of the things that Nicole reminded me of yesterday is that with recent legislation, I have preached to you guys for almost 10 years that financial hardship wasn't a consideration. That is no longer the case. So now, thanks to the state legislature, it is a consideration where it hadn't been in the past. So the hardship to comply. And obviously, we support everybody getting to the right elevation, the 1 foot above. In this instance, like I said, we're not. We'll leave that to your guys, your discretion. It's got an open foundation, which means that should water rise, it doesn't have anything that looks like it wouldn't be as easily compromised as a slab on grade or something like that. So that's the bottom line. He came in 4 inches too short. It's not anything that can be detached and just shimmed up and raised 3 inches because it's again, as I said, it was engineered and it's solidly affixed to that foundation, which we're glad of. We don't want it floating away or blowing away in a storm. So anything else, Don?
Would it not be the same situation? Wouldn't we, it's like we're shooting grade of 4?
Well, a form board for a slab on grade foundation, you'd actually pour the foundation to that mark that they set. There was already a hub set that, they should have been able to shoot from the hub to the I guess it was 9 foot. But there's no form board. There's not like I said, the form board survey is for a slab on grade. Like I said, piling.
I understand that, but what's the difference between shooting at elevation and those?
Essentially, there's not. It's still a measurement. You're right. It's still a measurement, and they missed the measurement, just like they had on those foundation issues that we brought to you the last couple meetings.
So Rick, in that case, the contractor had the right specifications, but then blew it.
Mm-hmm.
So aren't they liable?
It's not a matter of liability now. I mean, at this point, it's a permitting issue.
Make it correct. It's like
it is, but as I said, again, they can approach us with a variance request. And like I said, we have given circumstances. You guys have approved other ones that were similar because of we fortunately haven't brought anything that didn't meet FEMA baseline,
So what in the future can be done so that this doesn't happen?
We just got to
Can you
keep,
not shoot, are these not piers this is sitting on? I mean,
They are.
could they not have shot to the top of those
They
piers?
could have, but they didn't because there's no requirement from us at the time for them to do that.
Ah,
When did the requirements start?
Form board survey started in January.
okay, all right,
And this was before,
That was
January?
before January.
okay, all right. Are we going to be requiring?
January of 22,
January
Yes,
20.
yes.
It was permitted
first time
prior to
we used that.
right.
that. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can we require them in the future though to shoot that?
Oh, yeah.
We do now.
Good.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
we've
Okay.
we've gotten better. We don't like bringing these things to you.
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay, all right.
Well, I reiterate, I don't like seeing it every month either.
Well, keep in mind, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of permits a month. So, and these, the only ones we brought you are the ones that are prior to. If they keep happening after this new policy, it's on me. I mean, that's was my directive to try to help solve it in Don's.
The
So-
Policy is basically, we need a form board survey. We allow them to go all the way up to pouring the slab before they go vertical with the house. We need to have a form board survey to make sure that slab top is where it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that's what we're getting nowadays.
And we've caught a few since we started
Mhm.
the form work survey.
So it is working.
It's working.
Good, that's good.
Not necessarily where the house is, but how high the elevation
Right.
is on that slab. That's what we're looking at.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And as far as pier houses go, most of them are really tall. Okay, it's not an issue.
It's a new thing.
Yeah.
Well-
Most of them are really tall on those pilings. What we're trying to get now is the ones that are on lower pilings like his is, make them shoot the top of those pilings so we know where they're at.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at now.
Rick, one other, when you led into this whole thing, you made the one comment about keeping us mostly out of hot water.
Well-
What exactly does that mean?
Well, FEMA's requirement is that, and Nicole's my floodplain administrator, certified floodplain manager. So we're in compliance with FEMA if we're at base flood elevation. That's FEMA's concern, is that nothing's below base flood elevation. We have what I call the design flood elevation for the city based on codes that's 1 foot above FEMA. Rockport adopted 2 foot, I think, as an example, maybe Corpus too.
Houston as well.
So you can adopt anything. Obviously, the higher that is, the more expensive the cost, and you got to weigh that with what you really the risk you're mitigating. But for us, it doesn't meet our design flood elevation, but it meets FEMA's, and that's extremely critical for us.
And they call it base flood
Base flood elevation,
for
and it
FEMA.
varies around town. Like I said, this one
Yeah,
is 9.
right.
Some places are 10. A lot of places are at 8. And the new map that's going to be officially adopted in October all those areas we are familiar with will probably change. So the new flood maps will be adopted in October. I don't know if we even know what this,
And then the
I
plan,
didn't even think to check.
the plan distances will
Right.
change too, then, is that right?
I'm sorry?
The plan distance will change also. If the floodplain, base floodplain changes, your plan dimensions change also, right?
You mean as far as elevation?
Yeah,
The design.
Sure, it'll still,
one over.
unless we're directed otherwise by council, we'll still keep the 1 foot above base flood. It's the base flood either will change, possibly. Some areas that weren't in a floodplain will find themselves in one. Some that were in one will find themselves out of them. So the new map is going to change what we've done. But it doesn't matter. We apply whatever the base flood is to every new permit anyway.
So, I mean, do we feel like there's, with the change that we made, that the due diligence exists now that these kind of things, in theory, shouldn't happen, or we could be addressing?
I can say yes. Like I said, if it does, then again, that's on me for a week fix. But I think it's working because we're catching them.
No, I mean, routinely check ones that are off?
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. We do.
So is that an education thing with our local contractors, or how do we fix that?
Most of the ones that we're seeing are with these contractors that don't regularly build in Port Aransas. The guys that come in and build one house.
Right.
The ones that you've approved have all been kind of those unique contractors that don't do it a lot. Our contractors that build there all the time are well aware
Right.
and meet all of those.
And those onesie twosie type contractors, I mean, they get the documentation that says this what's
Mhm.
gotta be done.
Oh, yeah.
So if they screw up,
And it's
I
all-
mean, is there any recourse for the city?
And that's why we look at trying to get the elevation height right after they pour before they go up. Because they're always like, well, it costs so much, the house is already starting up.
Right.
We need a form survey before you go up.
Mm-hmm.
And elevation certificate is where that slab is. So,
Yeah, John, I'd have more of a problem if we had called them out and said, look, this is too low, and they did it anyway, those kind of things.
Right.
The ones that we've seen, and like I said, even though they're, even one's too many, the few that we've done have been, we think pretty honest mistakes, 3 inches. And in the scheme of things, again, good carpenters should be right on the money, but a good contractor should be right on the money. But in the scheme of things, the other interesting part too is a side note, is that we've also seen surveys done within short spans of time, 4 and 5 months, that have different elevations. And when we talk about finished floor, they shoot at the threshold, at the door threshold. Because they don't ever go inside and stick something on the top of that floor. So they're shooting from the outside,
Right.
and they're gauging it from the whatever that threshold is and making that calculation. But we've seen some that are several inches off one way or the other, because of the way that finished floor elevation is actually shot. So you could build up some big threshold and kind of game the system technically.
One
So
last question. Do you shoot on the forms or you wait till the concrete's there?
they can do it one of two ways. They can either shoot it at the top of the forms, or they can shoot it when the concrete's poured. Either way, but everybody knows that concrete slabs are poured straight up to the top of the form surface, or form boards.
Right.
So that we will accept those, and then it's up to them to make sure it's the right height when they start going up. And we get it off the form board, top of the form boards, or they shoot it after they pour the concrete.
Well, what I'm trying not to get is another one of these kind of things.
Yeah,
And we get into the economic hardship,
Mhm.
Well, which we hadn't before.
And it
You
is
know,
such a-
which you haven't before, I know, but now we got to. Okay, but now you got a slab, hold it, and you say, oops, you missed it.
Or they're way too high because they're not supposed to be building up stuff more than what, a foot over?
Well, we don't have any prohibition against going higher, and I can tell you that we probably, for safety purposes, want to go higher, provided they can avoid dumping water off onto your neighbors.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
And there's a
so-
lot of places around town where it's been built up and nothing was done and they are shedding water. And then the other thing that I see is if they build up higher than they really should, then their 35-foot height, because it's a midline. I mean, there's a house that I look at that is like at least 2 feet higher than any other house on either side of it. And I think they put too much on the lot to begin with. But it's too late. I mean, the house is built. And so that's a big issue
Yeah,
too.
and the way the ordinance reads, it's average grade. So if the lot was somewhat irregular,
Mhm.
that's the other thing too, is
I know.
that, so
Yeah.
in my own lot, my older home was the same way. It was a split level lot.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't reach those maximums anyway, but that's the other problem is that the way the ordinance reads, it's average natural grade. So if you're way up high here, you're down here, you actually measure from somewhere here, so you can bring all this fill in and.
And what's
they
the
did.
recourse on?
They did bring all that fill
Yeah.
in.
Well,
What is the recourse that you can do?
in
It's
the
already-
end, economics typically dictates that the amount of fill you bring in is only going to be so much. You just can't feasibly do it economically. If you want to go higher for that, you put it on pilings.
but if you do, you're still obligated to provide drainage. And if that amounts to a pump or something, they've got to convince us that they're not going to shed water under the neighbors. But again, half the time that we have an issue, it's as much that when they built up, they've taken somebody else's property that's clearly older, that had water migrating over onto the lot that's now being developed. And so the older owners perceive that to be a fault of the new property, but it's truly a fault of their own drainage plan. And that happens a significant amount of the time when people build up. It blocks the water that had been going over there from the old neighbors. It really wasn't draining right. So it's complicated.
When people don't come to the level that you're wanting or legal, and they come to us and it's too short, it's like, what do you do? Tell them tear it down?
Well,
What is your
that's
report?
why you guys get paid the big bucks to sit there.
Yeah.
Well, if they were,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I don't see the problem with this particular one since it's kind of piling like.
But we need to minimize that. But that is exactly, and that's
what
what
we've
you
been
guys get paid to
getting,
do.
and it's like, it's what it's kind of like it gets brought to us and we're like, oh, well, we can't, it's already there, but it's not following the rules.
And a lot of it, again, I can tell you, staff would tell you to look at what's, is it impacting somebody else's use or enjoyment of their property? Is it, is it creating some other hardship for somebody else by granting the variance? And those are always things that in a lot of instances are clear, and sometimes it's not as clear. And that's, again, why you guys are appointed and have to make those decisions. But no, you're absolutely right. There's how the new law will impact that regarding the financial hardship. I don't know. That's an attorney's, and whoever isn't ruled on favorably that's going to be up to them, and we'll have to see. It's fairly new. That was it, the last legislative session. So,
Could we have them shoot the form board height before they ever pour?
well, that's what they're doing now. That is what we're doing now.
No, that's what my question.
Okay, that's what I want to make
Yes.
sure is
So
before they
we're
pour.
trying to avoid getting these to you. These all predate having done that.
Right.
The
Okay.
thing is, even if they shoot the slab and it's 3 inches, 4 inches below where it's supposed to be, they still have the opportunity to come back and put 4 inches of concrete.
Yeah.
Right, but
They can
no
overtop,
contractor
stub
wants to do
flooring,
that.
anything they have to do. And
Yeah.
at that point, we know.
Yeah.
They go, damn it, we had a form board and they still blew it. Great, before they start building or anything else.
Right.
And we know that because we're getting that elevation certificate. So then they don't fix it. They can still apply.
Who goes and does that? Gives the certificate.
Surveyors.
Surveyors do.
So then they
And they
still.
bring it to you
Mhm.
and say,
To the building
we
department.
shot it right, it's no break.
What they do is they submit it to us, like a set of plans. And if they say it's right, and then we find out later it's wrong, hey,
Yeah,
So do
gotta
we
be
have
a
anyone
variance.
in the city that's actually are you going there or do you have somebody that goes there and checks every
They have to
single?
turn it into us. I mean, and we wouldn't be able to, without the equipment,
Yeah.
we have to trust the surveyor. So when they tell us it's that.
Surveyors,
Yeah.
so it's an
Okay.
official document.
Okay,
yeah, and they're bonded and insured. And
okay.
But if they tell us that and they do something different, we'll make it very clear. If they apply for a variance, we'll tell you that they were told, they did it anyway. And then again, it's still your decision. And yeah, I've been involved as a neighbor on a property where they had to cut a slab that was in a setback. Happened to be in the setback of a sitting councilwoman at the time. They came in and cut the slab, had to redesign the house, lost the sale.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? Did we have a motion?
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we grant the variance.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion to grant, motion to approve, whatever, and a second by Noe. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Great day.
You'll tell us when the first one comes in. That was done after January, right?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
confident they're not going to be.
Oh, okay.
I hope so.
You'll have a black hat on or something.
Yeah, we just know.
You know.
But I'll tell you.
I have no problem
That's not-
whatsoever if you want to stop work order on them until it's done.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm right.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm
Yeah.
very good at writing.
Yes, he is.
Do you actually put a red tag
Mhm.
on the pilings?
Orange.
No, it's a yellow.
Oh, yellow, okay.
It's black,
Did you look at, okay.
you know, and set it up there and
Okay.
hand it to whoever's around, the owner, contractor.
And strongly encourage him
Take
to leave this
pictures
site.
and sit and Go on back to the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Joanne used to pound on 10 by 10
All right.
to make it obvious.
I hate to beat up this issue, just one quick one.
Yeah.
All right, you go out there, you get an engineer, he shoots the, or surveyor,
Mhm.
shoots the form,
No,
all right? Does anybody shoot the form, shoot the concrete after that?
Yeah, they do it at the final.
At-
But they
The
do it at the
final?
final of the building, they have to have a final elevation certificate. And it better match what they shot at the form board survey.
Okay, is that final? Is that after the house is on top of the
No,
foundation?
yes, sir.
Okay,
At which point it becomes, oops, too late, the house is already there.
No, that becomes, hey, you said it fit here, you said it fit here, and now it doesn't fit, you've got a problem as a builder.
Hmm.
So we've got two things, we've got elevation certificate tells us how high it could be. We have their paperwork, which tells us how high they're going to build it.
Mhm.
And we have a form survey that says they were building it to that height.
Mhm.
So, in my opinion, if you've got three checks and they still build it wrong, and the final one is not the top, what the original one said, then I don't care about their financial problems at all. And
Well, no.
the house does not get a CO, in my opinion.
right, okay.
So,
All right, okay.
Okay.
Where's Rick go?
You
anyway,
went to the back.
little boy room.
It's a long trip.
No, yeah, we've got one right here.
Oh, is it already finished or something?
Well, no, it's right behind the door there,
Oh, okay.
going to the left. He drinks too much coffee. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have this that you can put up there too? This is awfully small. That, there, that's easier to see.
Yeah, that's where the house is, there on the corner.
Peter back.
Okay.
It says proposed, see where it says proposed patio right there?
Yes.
That's where, on the plans, it showed it to be concrete.
Slab on grade, I mean, the slab, flat
Let's
work,
read into
right?
the, let's
Let's read into it.
keep reading.
Okay.
Cover it. Let's- the next agenda.
Okay.
All right. Next item for consideration is a variance request 22-001062, property location 526 Paradise Point. Okay,
Thanks. So this one again, another little slightly unusual situation for us. So when we reviewed this, as Don said, the plans, we don't always like decks and patio. Well, let me back up. Decks and patios with a few limitations can be in the setback. You can have decks and patios and all of that penetrate into the setback all the way to the property line, provided that they don't exceed 30 inches in height. So those aren't less than 30 inches. They're not considered a structure. So when we looked at the original plans, we saw that there was a proposed extension of the deck right off of the existing deck and wall plane of the house, and it really never jumped out at us. There was no indication that there were going to be pilings set for that. It appeared that it was going to be like a concrete patio. When we looked at it, everybody that reviewed it looked at it the same way. It was just a concrete patio extension off of the deck. Not to say we shouldn't have caught it. That's like I said, but that's how it got through. So when we first got the call, we went out there. Don and I went out there together and looked. And if you'll go back to the picture, Nicole, of the side picture. So what Don and I talked about as to, as to solutions and where we wanted to go with it. So notice the lot. And again, for those that have been out at Paradise Point, it's a beautiful, beautiful, very native look with, obviously a lot of native vegetation and everything else. And it drops off to the back. So what happened was that 30-inch rule clearly it can't be applicable when your land drops off behind you. So Don and I talked about it, and he said, well, we stick I think the applicant said a concrete wall. I don't even know that it would have to be a concrete wall. You stick a landscaping wall out at the back and just fill it to simply get to your 30 inches and you're good to go. Don and I discussed it, and Don, again, correct me if I'm wrong. We just didn't feel that was necessarily going to accomplish anything. It wouldn't change the look. There was nobody being impacted. I mean, we just kind of weighed that, and to simply make somebody go in and fill it to hit that 30-inch rule just didn't seem to be the more prudent course. But we couldn't. In the homeowners association came to us and they've spoke. Again, if it wasn't on their architectural plan review, I have no doubts that they're probably accurate in that respect. We weren't as concerned about that as we were the outcome, the final product. So really the only prudent course was to ask the applicant to go ahead and if he didn't want to go in there and fill it, and I think that we had a discussion and that didn't seem to be the most prudent course. The variance was probably the first course of action to take. Let's see if we can explain the situation, how it happened, why it happened, the solutions, but let you guys take a look and make that decision. Again, it's just another tough one. It's unusual. It's just that these things don't happen that often. And again, this is a case, I think Don touched on it, where the pilings were used because that's, I believe, the requirements in Paradise Point. They can't be slab on grade. Is that correct?
Well, it would be flat work, right?
When I'm talking about a structural slab, not flat. So they don't allow a slab on grade. So everything's supported by pilings.
So all the patios are supposed to be concrete. I mean, if you said patio, you would assume it's concrete, even though.
We did assume it was concrete,
Okay.
and deck, but it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't change for our purposes, the
Okay.
ordinance, whether it's deck or patio, wood or concrete. We particularly like wood decks because it's permeable.
Yes.
And it's just
So
one
is
more,
that-
especially out there where you've got, obviously you've got all the water features and the areas there that are, attract, birds and the bees.
So
and
putting fill in there and concrete in there would actually.
they could fill it and get to, and we go
because
out there and
That would impact all of that
Mhm.
natural grass
If
and
that-
the water.
If that was,
exactly. And he
And
could
that's
bring
what
the,
we're trying to.
This is
yeah. So that's
preferable.
that's the tough call, is that
Right.
we didn't feel that to just for compliance purposes, this is just one that we, that we thought was appropriate.
There's no
to
structure that's not on the property line. That's
no,
within the
it's
property.
within the property.
Everything's within the
All
property.
So this is the same dimensions the patio would have been.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the patio, if it's made out of concrete, can be in the setback.
Yes, concrete, wood, it doesn't matter as long as that feature doesn't exceed 30 inches. In other words, you can't have a really
Okay,
Yeah.
So how
we-
tall is the piling? I'm sorry.
Well,
more than 30
our house
inches.
is 39 inches, by the end of the patio, it's 40 something.
Okay.
Yeah, because the land slopes off.
Right.
And that's the only place we can stick the tape is where it touches the
Right.
If they
ground.
filled it, would it be compliant?
Yes.
Okay, that's,
There's also
Filling
another
it with-
issue that,
All right,
sitting here looking at this, I'm looking at another issue. If they fill it, what does it do to that marshland?
Mm-hmm.
And as it currently sits, at least the water could go through it.
Yep.
If you put a wall around it, whether it be landscape or whatever, 9 times out of 10, where it's at, it's gonna wash out. And then you've got where it goes back up into the blocks and next to the house.
And like I said, it's just, it's one of those, quite frankly, it's one of those situations that perfectly made for Board of Adjustments to just reason through.
It looks like what they did was keep the natural
Yeah.
landscaping.
Man,
And pouring concrete right there seems like it would just take away.
Oh, yeah, that'd be.
I agree.
Yeah.
Out there in the wetland.
When
Yeah.
and if our can't get them, and if concrete patio was out there, it would lift it up anyway, break it up and splatter it all over the
Mhm.
place.
Sure. Where is the setback on that?
The setback is going to be right about where the last columns are on the,
Okay,
before you extend out the.
Outboard column.
Mhm.
all right, so
Actually, that area just,
if,
is that correct, Mac? Is that pretty much correct from that? What we see, that piling in the far right corner of that screen,
yeah. I mean,
that's
if
about where the property, that's about where
Yeah.
the setback
To
is.
me, if that's what we're talking about, is if you pour a big old slab of concrete, it's okay. But you have something aesthetically and environmentally better, it's in violation of this
That's-
30-inch rule.
I think those are valid comments.
I think that beats a
That's-
hell out of
That's why you guys get,
economic impact.
Me too.
Big money.
You know, I just don't see it, and I don't, I don't understand this conflict between the property owner association not approving a patio, but the city ordinance says you can build a patio and
into the setback.
setback.
Well, I mean, homeowners associations can be more restrictive than us. And I think there was an issue, I think they had an issue with the pilings were on the original plans that were approved. And all I can worry about is the city piece of it. And, you know,
So what's the homeowners association's recourse on it? You know, this, you know, I'm sure it won't be the last one and, you know, the next one.
I can't speak for the HOA. I mean,
You know,
I mean, are we creating yet another precedent?
My turn to talk, I guess.
sure, yes, please step forward.
My concern initially was a liability issue. What's been built was, as far as we know nothing about the engineering of it. We know nothing about the pilings. I've since found that he has new plans which have those pilings on them. And he's got 3 revisions after the revision that was approved by the city. Well, 3 revisions that were never submitted to the city or the HOA. So we don't know what all has been done. To date, I've not seen anything in the way of engineering of how deep they are. During Hurricane Harvey, all of the boardwalk that was in the preserve behind our subdivision got ripped up and thrown through our subdivision. It went through doors, it went through windows, it took out air conditioners. I don't know that this extension is anything different than that boardwalk. If we get a surge that goes under that and Plotman makes it run through whatever, seems to me the HOA ignoring it has a potential liability associated with that.
right, do you normally get the like engineering, I mean, like windstorm engineering and all of that stuff on the review? I mean, we have all that. I mean, we've never, I don't think been asked to share that with HOAs, but I
No,
don't
but,
think
well-
that we wouldn't be willing to.
But it seems to me that without asking for, I mean, he's done something and then it's coming after the fact asking for permission.
If it was engineered correctly, though, do you think that you might have given permission to do it?
I don't understand why everything that I read about variances mentions things like hardship and how it's that there's some hardship that restricts you from using your property. Well, I don't see where the requirement is. I mean, I don't see where there's a hardship that he can't use the property without having the extension of the deck there. It's more convenient. It's a lot nicer that your deck goes
But I mean,
18 feet wide.
you understand, he, at least in our opinion, and it's Don's and mine, he can achieve compliance by bringing, by adding additional fill and contouring it off and just to get to that 30-inch level.
That seems odd to me as an individual. The wash is going to wash. I mean, he's a foot from the edge. He's less than a foot from somewhere around a foot from the edge of the preserve, and it's just going to wash into the preserve constantly anyway.
But again, features can be in the setback. I mean, pools can be all the way
Yeah.
to the property line.
And
In fact, if that were an above ground pool, there'd be no discussion because we say pools can be in the property line and there is no 30-inch limitation. Again, that's my only point, Ray, is that, and again, we don't speak for the HOA, but But again, it just appears that filling it to just achieve the city ordinance compliant isn't in the best interest of this property. And that's just my opinion. I get the plan review, all that's secondary to us. I mean, I understand the HOA's position, but you know, like I said, when you've got something there to fill it and take away permeability, like that.
No, you got something?
Yeah, as built, would that have to be on the plans and engineered for approval by the city before it was built on that house?
Not an as-built.
Huh?
An as-built is usually after the fact,
Okay,
and the engineering on that comes in after the fact on an as-built. Because basically what you're saying is this is the way it was designed and this is what we did to change it.
Right.
And an engineer in this case would have to sign off on those pilings being deep enough.
Yeah, that engineer inherited that addition and would have inherited it whether it was concrete or not. So he inherited it. It's part of the windstorm certification once they added it on. So we've got the engineering. We have to have engineering. So like I said, and we'll always share that.
So it's
So it's
windstorm
engineered.
certified?
You have engineering on the deck?
Mhm.
Is that what you said?
So it is windstorm certified?
They've got it.
Engineered certified.
Everything that's a component of that house falls under their purview, and they have to certify it all. Once they attach it, it's becomes part of the engineering.
Okay. So currently from the homeowners association side, they have some sort of a review process to meet
Architectural review, I believe.
architectural review. But then there's a gap between that initial architectural review and, oh, by the way, we're gonna make 12 different change orders. And
We don't ever, there's just, it's impossible for us to interact with HOAs and their review. So if somebody comes to us and says they meet our ordinances, we have no choice but to permit it. If they come in to make a change and it doesn't violate, permit it. This one, we just didn't realize the topography was such that when we looked at that extension that clearly was going to be into the setback, it never clicked. The land were to fall off and our 30-inch rule just wouldn't be met.
I can see the homeowner association heartburn with, okay, you know, I'm the owner of this house. I got, you know, architectural review, and it looks like it's supposed to look. But then to come back in behind it and not at least, you know, socialize it with the homeowners. So, hey, we want to do these changes, and here's how we intend on doing it. It does meet.
But John, I don't want to speak for the applicants or the HOA. I don't know that it was ever a change. It was always on the plans. The plans we got,
There's
the
a
extension.
new set of plans that was used to put in the pilings that have pilings in that location.
But they didn't
There's
get
3
it.
revisions to the plans from what was submitted to the city in the HOA, the best I know.
So
well, these plans here show it
The city got the plans, right?
show it as flat work because there's a continuation back that way. So this is obviously flat work.
And that was the way it was drawn. I don't know about the revisions. When we first looked at this, when it first came to our attention, the plans we did have the pilings there.
Oh, really? Oh.
and most are like setbacks various. Have to do with something. Still use the property.
Here's revisions to the plans that have 3 revisions in addition to the October 20th date that was originally filed.
What's that plan? Is that the plan we have? Or-
No. No, I don't, it's not, I'm
This
not
is
aware.
the one that,
I've never seen those plans in person. I've only got a snapshot of that one page of the plans, which has 3 revisions on it, in addition, past the original October 20th plans that you've got.
we have a plan?
We don't these are plans for the other property.
It's originally flat work. That goes around the house.
Right. Concrete.
Yeah.
But just that piece you're looking at looked to be, just by the way it was drawn, looked to be concrete. But again, I don't want us to get, I mean, we don't really have anything between the HOA and the property owner is a whole different set of circumstances. Really, all we have that's under our authority is is this particular variance of our ordinance. Like I said, I don't want to ever get in the middle of an HOA issue. They can always, like I said, they've got their own set of rules that we don't enforce.
Question to the city and to the, how is it that they're allowed 3 revisions to the plans that change the foundation plan and it's not required to be filed with the city?
They should have been involved. I
Yeah.
won't say that much, they should have been involved.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, and I'm not aware of the revisions.
I'm not either, but
When we first looked at it,
Those are the revisions that Shanklin used to put in the pilot.
because when the plans we looked at had the pilings on there, that's when it first,
Yeah, for that.
we realized it.
Not for that deck,
for
for the porch, but not for the deck.
But that whole outboard.
No.
strip.
Not for what we're discussing for the variance.
they had a patio.
Right.
They had that same extension. They just didn't show the piling supporting it,
Right.
which would have been a concrete patio. We're back to the same thing.
Plans do
Which
tend to-
actually, I want to say again, the proof of the pudding is, it shows concrete wrapping around the house on the westward side. Take a look at that real carefully. There's a line there that represents more flat work.
What'd you say?
The plans do tend to change throughout the construction of a structure. It's a pretty common thing. It probably happens more often than it doesn't.
Well, I don't say it's a
They
deal
should-
killer, but it indicates that was originally supposed to be a concrete patio wrapping around the house
Correct.
at the
Yeah,
end
nobody's
of a
disputing
deck
it.
that was
Correct.
built onto the house.
And that's the.
So that's the intent.
That's the same thing.
That's the intent, is a flat work patio at the back and wrapping around like a walkway.
Right.
Like a lot of us have, walkways around the house.
Right.
And then it became something else.
And it's
And
not
that's why
unusual
we're here.
for things to change in the process of construction.
Yeah, the only thing
Typically,
that,
they give us as built at the end.
only
of
thing that changed with as far as the footprint goes is the wraparound part.
Right.
Both patios are there.
It seems like the changes were made because of the landscape.
Right.
And keeping the landscape in a natural form instead of pouring a bunch of concrete to get what they wanted. The homeowner had to say, well, okay, we won't do it the way we wanted it because we're trying to preserve this area. So what's the best way to preserve this area without just concreting it in, making a dam?
From an aesthetics point of view, this looks a lot better than if you had put a retaining wall there, filled it in and put concrete on top of it. I mean, that is a lot more,
Just to get to the, yeah, I know that, and that's my point.
yeah.
I don't know that it accomplishes a lot, but again, it does deviate from our code, which is why we're here.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to give him the variance.
Make it-
We have a motion to approve in a second.
Now that John can do them.
Is that John?
I'll give it to her.
All right, give it to Tina.
Okay. give it to
Okay.
me. I second.
Give it to somebody.
You get paid for it.
We get paid more if we make motions.
right.
No.
Get
Yeah.
twice- get twice as
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
I think I got a piece of candy.
What do? Everything that you do? Hey, people.
Oh.
Do we vote on it?
Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve passed. One question. Are those, is that water behind it? Is that tidal water, navigable water? Is that something that,
Navigable water.
Well, I'm sure it's tidally influenced.
what I'm saying is that, is there riparian water coming out from there? Or is that just wetlands and
Pretty
never to be disturbed?
much wetlands and tidal waters where that is.
Yeah,
The navigational channels are outside of this area right here,
right, okay.
as far as I know.
I think it is
Yeah.
I've
tidally
got the
influenced.
maps. There's many different types of classifications out there in that area. Floods daily, floods weekly, floods blah, blah. Most of them are wrong. I got the maps.
Well,
Nicole gave them to me, and most of them are wrong.
That does not.
The new map.
Huh?
That does not surprise me.
I would rather.
No, there's an area behind
Have them
property I
come in.
had that flooded daily.
They want to
And I
build,
was out there the other
Here.
day looking at, there's no water there.
that's what I'm talking.
Oh, up here.
I think, I'm personally like,
Except when it doesn't.
this is better than a pile of concrete.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like.
Okay, I think, set a date for the next meeting.
We have another variance that was applied for. It was too late to get it on this meeting, so we need to pick a date for our future meeting. It can happen as early as the 30th of June.
Before the
Before we were
30th.
doing them on Wednesdays to accommodate Flip with his dialysis schedule. We can have it on any day of the week that you guys wish.
And I don't know, I mean, I don't think we have anything else on the horizon. That doesn't mean something
When is
can't
the
pop up.
30th?
The
What-
30th is
A Thursday.
June the 30th is a Thursday.
Let's don't do
My
it. June.
Tuesdays are toast, but Wednesdays and Thursdays are pretty good for me.
You guys tell me. I mean, it's.
I'll be, not that,
I may not. be
In
here,
Mexico.
Oh, the 30th of this
poor
month?
guy.
what do we
That's
want to
the
do it more like
earliest
this?
date- That's the earliest date according, because I have to put it in the paper and send out notifications.
That's
That's
right.
the earliest date we can have it. You
And I-
guys can choose.
And
any
I'm
date
going
after
to, I'm
that.
going till the 1st.
Any date after that, you can choose.
What about the 29th? Who could not be
No,
here?
ma'am, it can't be.
Can't be.
It cannot be.
still-
Oh,
30th.
excuse
Before
me,
the
I'm so
30th.
sorry.
So
Anytime after, the first part of August.
July,
You can have it all the way through August. It doesn't matter.
I won't be here the week of July 4th.
You can
Oh,
have it 2
July,
weeks
we're talking
after that.
July, never mind, I'll be here.
Are you guys gonna get the new member real quick?
13, 14.
It's in the paper. We actually need, 2 new members.
Okay.
Right
Well, am
now,
I
we-
one of those members?
Say it again?
Am I one of those?
No.
Okay,
If you,
so I'm
if
gonna
you,
reapply.
if the 2 of you reapply.
Yeah, I'm
We
reapplying.
still need 2 additional members.
You are,
Okay,
yes,
yes, so yeah,
Oh, still need 2 additional members.
still need.
We're 1 short right now.
Okay.
And with Flip's, passing, we're 2 short.
What about the 20th of July? What's that like for anybody?
What
That's a
day is it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Works, any Wednesday works for me. Tuesdays never do.
I am here, I'm confusing into July when I'm gone, but,
Are you gone in July?
no, end of July.
You have
All
gone at the end of July, not the 20th.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, 20th.
what's the, from the applicant's part? Do
They
we
have-
have to have a meeting within certain days of the
90
application?
days.
Within 90 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
but.
I didn't know that.
all right.
Does the 20th work for you, Nicole,
I'm gonna be here.
of July?
I'll be
I'll
here.
be here.
Will you
I
be
think I'll
here?
be here, so we can do that.
I think the 20 will be
July
better.
probably would.
Okay, works for me.
We have to have 4 members for a variance hearing.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna look at all those here. Our attendance.
Yeah, because there's no way they'll be able to appoint anybody
They could.
next week, could they?
Their name made it to the
They have
minute.
applicants? I guess they could appoint somebody till the, yeah,
They could. Put it in the paper. It's in the paper today.
yeah. So I mean, you guys know anybody that you think would serve us well?
They just can't wait to be on a board.
Well,
This is
Texans
pretty
paying
easy
15
board.
bucks an hour. You gotta match that. Come on.
Community
You
service.
get a food voucher at the New Texan.
Do you?
I wish.
No.
Dude, I tried to quit and Nicole wouldn't let me.
I haven't been there.
Huh?
Is it nice?
So now I extended.
I've been trying for months.
What's the price of gas? Is it-
You didn't like that quit part.
$4.49.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Relating for mental health
449.
reasons.
Now, if that's not a conspiracy, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except that there's
Is that,
at
okay,
least
guys?
12 pumps
Yeah,
that don't have yellow
yeah.
bags on them.
Should work.
Yes, yes.
Don't have what?
Yellow bags on
I
them.
will let you find out as soon as I see
They-
on his calendar.
They still have some
I'm
that
not
did,
Somewhere with her.
but they had 12,
20th at the
14
same
that
time.
didn't.
It's up to you. I mean, we could change the time too.
This time worked pretty good, actually.
No, I'm not.
This works. I like
I like
this.
That's
Okay.
good.
Sounds good.
Everybody says good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
You better say it's funny.
Yes.
You haven't adjourned us yet.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, you're off the clock. We're adjourned.
If you want.
So do I
to
just
see
go
a house
right,
that
get,
appears to be
application
And-
or-
Marlon, I'd be
And guys,
somewhere around 1A and 11,
So,
somewhere.
I had a
You
conversation.
can see it from Porpoise.
Hey, guys,
Well,
so
I-
Rick wants to talk.
Rick wants